What's going on, everybody? My name's AJ Janavel, and this is a new podcast called Longer Looks, where I'm going to be taking the time to dig deeper into the stories that I work on every day. Usually we only get about a minute to 2 minutes to break down a lot of information, and because of that, some stuff is never seen, or you don't get a chance to focus on elements that just don't fit in. So with this podcast, the hope is to give you more of understanding, not just of these stories, but what goes into making the news happen. So today, the first episode is going to focus on a story down in Pierce County. The situation is quite surprising when you hear it. I reached out to deputies, and they told me that they arrested 2 teenagers for a violent crime spree that happened in a short amount of time. The first call came in at a bowling alley, and this call was for an armed robbery. There was a shooting connected to it. Someone was robbed for their book bag. From that point, there's another call that comes in. 2 kids jumped essentially by these same suspects. One of the children is pistol whipped by one of the suspects, according to investigators. These kids get their phones stolen. Finally, just a short ways away from that other incident, a woman is held at gunpoint in her own car as investigators say these suspects snuck into the back seat and stole $50 from her. Now, investigators say both of these suspects are teenagers, a 18-year-old and a 17-year-old. All of the locations are within a mile to a mile and a half of one another. And as I mentioned, it all happened within an hour. So the good news is those suspects were arrested, but there's still a lot of questions that deputies have. And basically there's the big concern with the age of these suspects. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to take a look at the video that I got from deputies. We got body camera footage, which is not always an easy thing to get. But with this body camera footage, it's not just from one of the locations, it's from several. So the first video that I'm going to pull up is the deputy arriving to that first scene. It's the bowling alley. It's called Paradise Lanes. And you're going to see basically this Pierce County Sheriff's Office deputy pulling up, and there's several people out in the parking lot, and they're going to start relaying everything that they've heard or seen up until this point to this deputy that's arriving.
Currently at gunpoint.
Do you know what the car was?
Into gunpoint for the 11.
I have it on video, and they're the owner. Apparently there was 2 young guys out here that was going and just looking in all the vehicles, trying to open them.
At another customer.
Yeah. And a customer.
Did you see what kind of car it was?
I did not, but it's on video.
The people, what kind of got shot?
No, the car, the suspect car. We have a car that we're trying to deal with right this second, and I'm trying to see if it's the same one.
They were on foot. They walked off that way.
So no one saw the car?
No,
They don't have a car.
They
Okay.
were on foot.
Did you see?
But the car that was shot.
What did they look like?
They were about this tall. They were young. They both had dark hair. They both
Hispanics?
were all black.
Okay.
They were
Yep.
Hispanic.
All black.
They were young.
Did
They
they have
looked like
any?
maybe they
Were they wearing anything?
They were wearing all black jackets.
Okay.
One had gray sweatpants.
And they
Okay.
stole a backpack from my car, so it's
And we have a
it's
gun-
champion
Yeah,
backpack
there's
as
the
well.
shell casings right
Showcase over here.
Okay. 453. I'm also getting 2 Hispanic males wearing black. Stole a champion backpack.
Is there like a shootout or something? There's like...
So what's interesting, the context to that is you have this deputy pulling up to this scene, and you can kind of hear the questions he's asking, because what I learned was you have this one incident that deputies are responding to, and then not that long after, there's another incident that deputies are responding to. So you could hear it in the video as the deputy's trying to figure out if this is the same suspects for the calls that they're having come in. But you hear these people in the parking lot outside the bowling alley talking about, you know, there was a gunshot, someone stole the book bag, questions about whether or not these suspects left on foot or were in a car, because in the next incident, deputies said that these 17 and 18-year-old jumped these kids right off of Pacific Highway and then drove down to the next stop. So the next clip is a little bit more involved. Basically, at this point, you have that final crime, which is what investigators say these teenagers pull up to the gas station, an Arco gas station. They get into the back seat of this woman's car and put a gun at her head and are able to get away with $50. And I say get away with, but that's probably not the right way to address this, because in this video you're about to see is right when deputies pull up to that same gas station just as these suspects are finishing with that final crime. So let's look at this video outside of the gas station as deputies are arriving.
Hey, Pierce County! Hey! Put your hands up! Put your hands up!
Fourth or two, we're with him. Felony stop.
So that clip goes on for a little while. You could see too, it's not just Pierce County Sheriff on scene. A Lakewood Police patrol car pulls in, and you heard that dog. The next clip I'm going to show is deputies working to get this suspect to basically comply, to follow their orders. When I was talking to investigators today, they were telling me that the suspects were not complying. They knew from these reports that they had guns, and what I was told was the suspects were trying to hide the guns into their car. And I know at this point from investigators, they have the car, they're waiting on a search warrant to go through and see everything that's in these suspects' car, but investigators tell me they're certain that there is a gun because they can see it in plain sight. At this point, these suspects are facing several charges connected to armed robbery as well as assault. But what investigators said, they could face more charges based on what comes out of this search warrant from the car. That being said, we're going to take a look at this second video. This is when deputies and other law enforcement start making their way toward that suspect to make the arrest.
Get on your face. Get on
Get
your
on your face.
Get on your face. I'm going to put you on your face.
Give us your hands. Give us your hands. Stop pulling away.
Give us your hands.
So I don't know if you can hear with the dog barking there, but what investigators told me is that the suspect was saying, I didn't do anything, and you have to realize too, this is just as deputies are pulling up. So investigators saying they found their suspects as soon as they were leaving the scene, and this person's saying they didn't do anything. So the one thing about this situation is it's lucky, because you had a lot of concerning incidents go on in a short amount of time. You have a gun fired at the bowling alley. You have the child assaulted, pistol whipped, and then you have a third victim with a gun pointed at their head. I got a chance to speak to investigators about this case and making that arrest.
You know, in this situation, we're lucky that our officers were able to put a stop to it and stop other people from being victimized. Who knows if those two had continued on through the night, how many more people would have been robbed at gunpoint, how many more stores would have been robbed, and you know, somebody could have died from all of their behaviors.
Right. Now that being said, the arrests have been made. Investigators still have concerns though, and the reason is because of the age of these suspects. You have an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old. Both teens, one of them still a kid. And so I spoke with Pierce County Sheriff's Office Deputy Carly Capetto about what is not just a one-off situation with younger people and kids committing violent crimes. This is what she told me.
This is what we're constantly combating, is the juveniles committing these crimes. And as law enforcement, it's frustrating because there isn't a cure or a solution for them. If it's not a felony crime, we have nowhere to book them. They're released back to their parents. And a lot of times if they are booked on felony crimes, they're released back to community custody care of the environment that they were in, which doesn't help them get better or make better choices.
And so you hear Deputy Capetto talking about essentially the concern for repeat offenders. These suspects specifically are still in the process of going through the court system, waiting to see what charges they face officially, the probable cause documents. And with that, I think the biggest question that I still have is with suspects so young, 17 and 18 years old, but with such dramatic crimes, multiple violent armed robberies in less than an hour. The biggest question is, do these suspects have any sort of record? And if so, what has happened to where they're back out at this point? Or what, if anything, could have been done in a situation to prevent something like this from continuing to happen? So that's the next step in this process. We're going to continue working to dig into that. But for now, that is it. We're going to call this one wrapped up. I think what I'm hoping to do is delve more into the questions that we don't get to answer on a day-to-day basis, or even show people what you might not get to see that goes on behind the scenes of putting together a news story on TV every day. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch. And for Fox 13 Seattle, I'm AJ Janavel with Longer Looks.